What do you think for your business is the importance of brand? Do you view it as a vital component of your business? Do you view it as just the cherry on top or something secondary? How important is that?
It's hugely important. I mean, our brand is really everything to us. I mean, we brand ourselves as being the best. And, what we really take pride in is having people come in and see our brand because we're old school. We have presses that are older than both of us.
That's part of the intrigue.
It is. And it really, people are fascinated by it. So, our brand is both old technology, and even if you can call it technology, because it really wasn't technology, it was motors and iron, and then new technology with an HP Indigo, which is the most state-of-the-art printing press, digital printing press made.
Welcome back to another episode of Founders in Flight. I'm Sean Sidders, founder and CEO of Mallard Agency. I'm really excited to introduce you to Rob from Metro VCS today. They're a local printing company, and Rob entered the entrepreneurial space a little bit later on in life. We had the chance to talk about what is it like to lead a team? How do you make sure that you actually surround yourself with all the right people? And how do you navigate running about a 10-person organization, which is when things maybe start to break? I'm excited for you to listen in. Well, Rob, I'm so excited to have you here and excited to just chat with you about what you have going on. And both of us find ourselves in the middle of running businesses that are really similar in size. We were just chatting about that. I'd love to just start by kind of setting the table with the origin story of your business. Tell me the story of how you got here.
So, the history is pretty long, but I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version.
Okay, great.
So I started in the printing business many moons ago. And at some point, I decided I would really like to own my own company. And the timing was right back in 2019, and I started to look around. And I stumbled upon this little tiny print finishing company in Dallas, Texas, reached out to the owner, and the rest is sort of history. He'd been in business for 20 years, had run a very good business, profitable business, but he was just ready to get out. And at that time, we were able to make a deal, and here we are today, 5 years later, and a lot of growth.
I love it. That's awesome. Now, tell me kind of if you were speaking to somebody, speaking to a fifth grader about your business, tell me, what do you guys do on a daily basis?
So we do a lot of different types of projects, and they're all very custom. So customers come to us for packaging, which we were talking about earlier. They come to us for specialty business cards. They come to us for very high-end brochures. It just really varies. So we take a lot of pride in what we do, and we're trying to produce an award-winning project on every project we produce.
Wow, I like that mission. That's really awesome. So your company currently has 11 employees, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, yeah.
And kind of give me a sense of what is it like to run an 11-person company? I've always heard it said, and I'm experiencing this just in real time, that once you hit 10 employees, things start to shift and break in new ways that didn't before, and you start to get challenged as the entrepreneur to step out of the day-to-day in ways that might make you feel uncomfortable, and you have to delegate more often. Where are you at in that process, and how is it going?
So what's really great about the employees we have is they're all wonderful. They do a great job. They have a passion for the industry. A couple of our employees have been with the company for 20 plus years, so they're long before I bought it. We have some great personalities in that 11 people company. We're always working to do better and help the employees improve. I would say one of the bigger challenges, though, is the people. And that is always something you deal with on a day-to-day basis because they have 11 different personalities. Yeah. and everybody kind of feels they have a specialty and they want to work in that area. And so you got to keep them focused and stay after the mission, which is providing the best possible product on behalf of the customer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, what types of businesses do you typically partner with? Is it really does it run the gamut, or is there particular verticals that you guys focus on?
So we pretty much have three verticals. Okay. When I bought the company, we were a trade bindery. So we only really dealt with the printers in the Dallas market. So we still do that quite a bit. We have, I'd say 10 to 15 pretty consistent printers in that vertical that we deal with. And then, the next vertical would be designers. So we do a lot of work direct with designers, whether it's for packaging or it's for high-end collateral projects, or we do a lot in the wedding industry also.
Okay.
So that's sort of a real specialty vertical there that we work in. And then lastly, we have some really nice relationships with corporations direct. And so we really have a nice mix of clients. So when the printers might be a little bit slower, the designers have more work or the corporations have more work. So it works out really well.
That's awesome. Now, walk me through the I guess, overall objective for the company long term. What is your vision whenever you're sitting with your team in a team meeting or an annual kind of vision casting meeting? What do you say to them? What are you guys really striving for long term, and how do you plan to get there?
Well, we really want to continue to grow. And we did something exciting in the last 45 days. We purchased a website, businessprinting.com.
Okay.
So really now, and we haven't really even announced this to the public yet, but we have a fourth vertical now. So our fourth vertical is going to be online printing. So if you go to our website, businessprinting.com, and place an order for any one of the about 40 different products on that website, you place the order, you get your price, you say yes, you upload your art, that order comes into us, and we're off and running.
Wow. So cool.
It's really exciting. And to your point about the question, I envision that helping us grow possibly another 100% over the next couple of years.
Wow, that's so awesome. Yeah. I'm excited about that for you all. And we were even chatting about a couple of opportunities for us to, because we deal with a lot of printed material, being a design shop ourselves.
Sure.
And it's just nice to know good quality people locally, which is part of the reason I love doing this podcast, is because I get to meet new people who are local, who think similarly, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the way we actually even got connected was that you saw a post about our previous podcast guest, and then we were able to connect, and I had an opening, and I was like, this is perfect.
Yes.
So just, I guess, proof that situations like this can really open up new opportunities for us to just get to know one another. I'm curious, entrepreneurship, if I've learned anything from talking to a number of different people through this this podcast series, and all the business owners that I get the pleasure of meeting throughout the year, entrepreneurship's really hard. It's challenging, whether it be with people or with product or with inventory or with real estate, or there's so many different things coming at you at any given time. What's something that in your current season is a struggle that you're navigating, and how are you going about solving that?
Capacity really becomes an issue at certain times of the year for us, and we do a really good job with that. But at times it becomes a little overwhelming, and you may think you need more people, but then at the slower times you don't need more people. So it's a really delicate balance to keep that in line, I guess, because at the end of the day, it all has an impact on the bottom line, which we look at it as the bottom line will take care of itself if we take care of the customer.
That's really interesting. I feel like, and when you say capacity, you're talking about like the concept of bandwidth. Like, are we fully utilized from a staff perspective or underutilized, and are we overutilized is really kind of a concern. And really that it feels to me a lot of times almost like a tightrope over the Grand Canyon or something, where it's just like you can either fall one way and it's a catastrophe, or you could fall the other way and it's a catastrophe, right? And so it's like you said, a delicate balance. How do you actually tactically go about making decisions around utilization and around future hires? Do you track time? Is it more qualitative? Do you just kind of seek feedback from your employees and see how they're feeling on a daily basis? Because we know that can be a little bit variable, but give me an idea of how you actually go about measuring that.
Well, it's interesting because for us, and the fact that we're producing custom projects day in and day out, we sometimes don't know exactly how long those are going to take. So a project that we might estimate for us to take 4 hours to produce might end up taking 8 hours to produce. So from a scheduling perspective, that's a challenge. And from a cost perspective, that's a challenge. But at the same time, something that we thought might take 4 hours might end up taking us 2 hours. So on our website, the one thing that I'm proud of and our employees are really proud of, or one of the things I'm proud of, is the fact that we offer 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you're not happy with the product, we're going to do it over for you. And that doesn't happen very often, but we're like anybody. We can make a mistake, but we make it right. And I think that really sets us apart in the industry.
Yeah, no kidding. It kind of safeguards like that purchase on behalf of the customer to know that they're working with somebody who will always make sure that they get what they need in their hands. But also you deal in an industry where timing is always a factor too, right? So you've got people who want speed, they want excellence, and they want cost efficiency, which is the ultimate the ultimate conundrum of a business is to try to figure out which two you're going to choose and which one you're going to sacrifice a little bit on, or how could I actually be the anomaly and accomplish all three, which of course is super, super rare.
Right.
So is there a season where you feel like you have really leaned into, I guess, discovering which of those you were going to actually align with? And do you actually feel like you've accomplished that anomaly? And if so, how? I would be really curious to know.
I'd like to say we've accomplished it, but the minute you think you've accomplished something, you're kind of sitting back on your laurels, and I don't believe in that. You know, as I think I said in the beginning, we're always trying to get better. So I don't think we'll ever accomplish all three. I mean, it's a goal, but it's one of those goals, you know, they always say you can have two of the three. Well, I don't really believe that. I think you can have all three. It just, you know, as you mentioned, it's a challenge.
It is a challenge, no doubt. And I think the important thing to remember in all of that is like the seasonality of business. You know, you go through, I mean, I've even felt it kind of just like the peaks and valleys of growing a business. Somebody the other day kind of one of my coaches drew two charts, and one of them was just this upward trajectory, really steady, has very minor, you know, peaks and valleys. And the other one was significant peaks and valleys, but hopefully constantly traveling upwards. And one of those is a lot closer to reality is what I've noticed, which is the one with the more drastic changes. It's kind of, you go through season. It's never easy, but there are moments where it's easier. And then there's moments where it's really, really, really difficult, whether that be emotionally difficult because you're losing people, or practically difficult because you're losing money, or whatever it might be. Those valleys can really, really eat at you. Tell me about a time where you've been in a valley in business ownership and how you came out the other side of that.
Well, the interesting thing about buying this company back in 2019, well, we all know what happened in 2020. So the deal closed in June of 2019. And 6 months later,
great timing,
the wheels kind of fell off, and I scratched my head and I thought, you know, what have I done? And it was an interesting time, and we made it through. We worked every day throughout COVID. Print was deemed a necessity, right? So we cut face masks. We did all kinds of unique things during that time period to keep the presses going. We weren't busy by any stretch of the imagination, but that was really a huge challenge. And we made it through. We kept our people. We didn't lay anybody off. We just hunkered down and got it done.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I feel like COVID was just I started my business in the middle of it, which
you can relate.
Was its own form of insanity. But I definitely can relate to, really, I didn't even know entrepreneurship pre-COVID. It was kind of like I just stepped into it in the middle. And I think a lot of people did, because you're stuck at home, and that leaves you a lot of room to think about what you're doing with your life, you know?
Right.
And, but there were unique challenges that existed then. And then there's unique challenges that face us now in a different world post that season. And, you know, I guess one of the things that I've really noticed is, like this resurgence in the importance of like in-person moments for marketing, or just in-person moments for networking or events are like definitely something that's become heightened since then, because there was this like moment of it not existing at all, and people are like, I miss this, and also it's hard to do business without relationship. And so now we're kind of coming out the other side of that. In that vein, you probably support a lot of a lot of in-person events through printed material. I mean, that's like such an important component, whether it be signage or actual collateral that's handed out. What are some trends you're seeing in the market because I work with a lot of companies that have a heavy trade show presence, or they are really focused on like referrals generation, and they like use printed materials to do that. But anything in particular that as we head into 2025 and as we enter kind of, Q1, Q2 territory when this podcast will actually be released, what are some things that you think people should keep in mind?
I think to your point about events, I mean, events have really made a comeback in the last, I'd say, even 6 months. We've seen a big increase in invitations and custom products for events that we've produced. And even the wedding space that we play a big role in. Weddings they're still big. There's still 100, 200, 300 people invited to weddings. It's a big deal. So I think with COVID, one of the things that happened too, there was a resurgence around just the written word, right? We saw a lot more people want note cards and want engraved note cards and letterpress note cards because people wanted to write notes. It was kind of the way to communicate.
Yeah.
So it's been good. I would say that the future is bright for that type of work. It's never going to be millions upon millions of them, but with the customer base that we have, we're consistently producing those types of products.
Yeah, for sure. I even think about, one of the things that we try to do here at Mallard is really create these experiences for people. It's why we opened a physical studio, and you're getting to experience it today. And it's why I've hired specific people, because I feel like they're such a good representation of the experience that we're trying to create at Mallard. And part of that experience for us is tangible items, which I think sounds potentially a little like amateurish and a little bit kind of like, duh, of course you would do that. But you'd be surprised how many businesses don't do that. You walk into their building and the brochure that's in the plastic stand on the receptionist desk is from like 2018. It's just like, I think that if you're a business really focusing on how you represent yourself through brand, for example, and how that brand then manifests in your experience, which is really like what we're talking about, is how do you use printed materials to make the experience unforgettable? And also, of course, like generate awareness too, because awareness is just the start of the experience, right? I view like a marketing funnel as really just like the experience funnel of how is somebody going to actually learn about your company, and then actually what does it feel like to experience it? That's like real brand.
Right.
And speaking of brand, what do you've gone through some branding exercises since you acquired the company, since you purchased it, and it's really well done. We actually shared that we kind of have a shared connection in who did that for you. What do you think for your brand, or what do you think for your business is the importance of brand? Do you view it as a vital component of your business? Do you view it as just the cherry on top or something secondary? How important is that?
It's hugely important. I mean, our brand is really everything to us. I mean, we brand ourselves as being the best. And, what we really take pride in is having people come in and see our brand because we're old school. We have presses that are older than both of us.
That's part of the intrigue.
It is. And it really, people are fascinated by it. So, our brand is both old technology, and even if you can call it technology, because it really wasn't technology, it was motors and iron, and then new technology with an HP Indigo, which is the most state of the art printing press, digital printing press made. So we, that's our brand, is really just to be the best at what we do. If that makes sense. It
does make sense. My curiosity is, how do you actually make sure that you're the best without messing that up? Because that feels like that sounds like a really worthwhile pursuit, and something that like every entrepreneur would say, like, I want to be the best.
Right.
How how do you accomplish that, especially when you have to like delegate to team members, for example, and actually like train them on how to make it the best? What is your journey with, I guess, scaling being the best looked like?
Yeah, it's a daily mission. It's walking through and looking at the projects as people are producing them, and paying close attention to the details.
Yeah.
We're all human, and if you're running a project on a press that's 40 or 50 years old, there can be a mechanical issue, and you might miss the little corner of the foil where there's something coming off, right? So, we have a process around everything we do where it requires approvals by at least one other person in the plant before we run the job, and then throughout the time that they're running it, because they're running it at a very slow speed, they're monitoring the quality as it goes through. So, it's a really tightly unwritten process. We're not a big company. We don't have manuals and pages of how we do things. We have good people that pay attention to what they do. That's
really good. I think that it's good to hear somebody else say that their processes aren't as documented as a larger company, or as somebody might consider best practice. Like, I think there's something to be said for understanding the life cycle that you're in, and yes, like pushing, but also it's a prioritization exercise, really. It's kind of like there's only so many hours.
Right.
So how many hours are you going to put into process versus actual execution versus actual revenue generation? It kind of feels to me like juggling 12 swords at any given time. Yeah. And it's just like, well, which one do I need to catch without cutting myself is an effort that is not for the faint of heart, I would say.
And we aspire to have that, right? I mean, we at some point, we'd like to have more written documentation, but at the same point in time, it still comes back to your people.
It does. It always comes back to people, the most important part of business, for sure. One other thing I wanted to chat with you about, because we had an intro phone call where we got to meet each other for a little bit before we met today, and you were kind of talking about entering entrepreneurship a little bit later on in your career, as opposed to, there's a lot of vocal content producers out there who are 30 years old and started their business based off of their 10 years of experience, me being one of them.
Right.
But you didn't enter into entrepreneurship until a little bit later. What is that? I guess, how do you maintain that drive? A lot of people are, at your stage, no offense, but they would just coast.
Right.
And you're doing anything but that. You're doing quite the opposite. Why?
I always had the aspiration to own my own company, and throughout my career, the timing just probably wasn't right. And that was for a lot of reasons. That was children, that was college, that was, all the financial obligations personally that led me to probably be a little more conservative on the professional side. Well, when I took a step back and looked at, what direction I wanted to go, I kind of decided, like, I'm not done. And my drive and my work ethic are pretty strong. And I feel like in most cases, we as a company outwork most people just because we're committed to what we're doing. You're right, I did start later in life. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
I probably work harder now than I ever have, even back when I was running a $75 million company with 220 employees. You had support all around you because you were a part of a larger organization. But now the buck sort of stops here.
No kidding.
So I have a lot of support around me from a production standpoint, but still I have to steer the ship. Yeah,
definitely. What would you say to somebody who, I talk to some people who are in a corporate career and they have been for 25 years and they're faced with, sometimes they're forced into it. It's like, oh, I got laid off and now it's time for me to figure out what's next. And sometimes it's just this like internal dilemma that they have of kind of like, if I don't do it now, I literally will never do it.
Right.
What would you say to somebody, because you've been in that seat where you had to make a tangible decision to say, okay, I'm going to go and do this. And you almost like re-energized yourself, it sounds like, to kind of level back up, embrace that youthful energy once again in order to enter into this venture and make sure that it's successful. What would you say to somebody who's thinking about that, who's considering making that leap but hasn't quite felt comfortable enough yet?
I'd say go for it. You only live once. And to take the risk, yes, there's risk involved. But I guess the reward, once you get to the other side a little bit and you get to take a deep breath and say, I sometimes stand back and now that we have 10 people working in the facility every day, I sometimes stand at the front of the shop and I just watch everyone. And I watch them all just doing their jobs. Simply just head down, working hard, doing their jobs. And that just, there's some real gratification in that. Because, you've built something and now you kind of just get to see it sort of progressing and the people doing what they love to do. So it's fun. That's awesome. That's the other thing is I enjoy what I do. Yeah. I enjoy people. I enjoy the company. I enjoy the challenge.
I think that what you just said at that last part there it sounds simple and kind of like a no-brainer. Of course you want to be loving what you're doing, but I experience so many people who don't love what they're doing. Yeah. And I think it's something to be said for really gaining enough self-awareness to know what it is that you actually find enjoyable, because it is possible to have a career that is fun and a career that allows for you to support your family.
Right.
And I recognize that there's seasons for everything. Sometimes you have to just take one for the team. But I think the important thing is to not necessarily let that taking it for the team become your whole story.
Right.
Instead, allowing that to be a seasonal moment in your story so that you can then step into the career that you really want and create that opportunity for yourself. And I'll be the first to say that what I just said would sound great on a greeting card as an encouraging letter for going for it. It is going to be really difficult. You have to really want it. That's what makes entrepreneurs kind of wackos. You got to be a little weird in order to do what we're doing, because it really does take a significant amount of work. I remember early on in starting this agency, actually, one of the ways that I got one of my biggest deals ever was I was at my co-working space that we were officing out of at the time. I think it was like 11 p.m. Last one in the office for sure. I think it might have been a Friday. And I don't advise that for anybody, but it is sometimes what it takes. Yeah. And I took a picture there was this huge parking lot outside of the window, this tiny little window I had in this co-working space. And my truck was the only car, and had to have been 300 parking spaces. I took a photo of that, and I don't even know if I said anything. I was just so exhausted, and I was just like, I need somebody to see that I'm really putting in the work right now. And somebody messaged me as a result of just posting that and said, "Hey, like I can't believe it. I just discovered that we connected 10 years ago, and I'm just now seeing this, and it looks like what you're building is really cool. Like I'd love to talk to you about an opportunity that I have with this company in Nashville." Mm-hmm. And it turned out to be one of the most important deals I've ever signed, and it was just proof that hard work, and also not being afraid to kind of talk about how hard it is, can actually be a benefit to your business. Now, I wouldn't plant yourself there, but it definitely, there's something to be said for authenticity and hard work, and those being foundational principles of success.
Absolutely agree. I mean, I think we all have had those moments throughout our career when you stood back and said, "Wow,
yeah,
I am making it happen." And at that moment, you were making it happen, and that led to something else better, which is awesome.
Yeah, totally. Well, Rob, I guess the last question would be, if somebody were maybe just considering how they might start that what's the first step that you think somebody should take? Because you kind of mentioned, just go for it. Tactically speaking, though, what are some tangible steps that somebody should take in order to set themselves up for success if they are gonna, as you put it, go for it?
I think you really have to decide what it is you want to go for, right? Because we all have had different career paths, and when I made the decision for entrepreneurship, I did look at a lot of different opportunities, because people say print's dying, print's dead, and that's just not true. Yeah. There will always be space for print in the marketing world. It may get bigger, it may get smaller, over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But, I looked at a lot of different things. And, once I decided that I needed to stay with what I know, I just started to develop a plan and start to look for a company, which wasn't easy. Most were too big and I couldn't afford it. And then some that were too small weren't what I was looking for. So this was dumb luck that I found this. It truly was. But, I had a plan. I had developed a plan in writing and looked at what I thought the business could do once I identified the business. And, and I'd say surround yourself with good people when you go to do that or when you start to do it. Because if you have people around you that can help you with the decisions and help you with the financial part of it, which was another key part of it for me, was aligning myself with a good financial organization that could help me through. So it comes back to people, right? It's who you know and who you can talk to and who ultimately can help you feel good about going for it.
Yeah, totally.
Because you have to feel good.
You have to have that community. I mean, it's really isolating to do it alone.
Community is a great word. Yeah.
The only other thing I would, I guess, conclude with as a thought is, I don't know that many people know this, but I actually, when I first moved to Texas, I was going to start a different business. And when I moved here, and I spent maybe 6 months on it. And it was my father-in-law's business in California, and he offered me the opportunity to open a Texas version of where they had run a business for decades in California. And I've always respected, how he ran a business, and so I also was craving I had an appetite, that entrepreneurial appetite. And when I moved here, I tried to start that, and what I realized was that I wasn't passionate about the product at all. And I also didn't know the product, but I also couldn't get a passion around it. And then I'll never forget this. When I was having a conversation with him, I was scared. I was going to go to my father-in-law and say, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do this. Right. And when I talked to him and I said, I'm not going to be able to do that, I actually expected him to be a little upset because of how much he had put into the education, because I started from janitor and I worked all the way up. I spent a month in every department before we moved here. And I'll never forget this. He said, I totally understand. Call me when you want to start a marketing agency. And I thought that was one, so gracious. And then two, such a good point of the fact that that's what I wanted to do all along. And I just didn't give myself permission to take the full risk. Right. I tried to take the alternate route that had the clear stairs up to success. And eventually, actually 2 years later, I decided to start this agency, and he helped me with my finances for the first 12 months. So the point is, really pay attention to what it is that you're passionate about. What do you believe in? Because you're going to have to sell that thing. And people can tell when you believe in your product and when you don't believe in your product. Right. So anyways, just an encouragement for anybody listening that your passion actually can be a business. You just have to learn how to productize it and sell it.
Absolutely. So couldn't agree more.
Rob, I really, I am enjoying getting to know you, both in the conversation before we recorded this and also in the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago. I think it's no happenstance that we end up in relationship in one way or another. And I'm excited to watch your business thrive and also hopefully help you along that journey, and also watch how you might be able to help me too.
No, absolutely. And likewise. And I really appreciate the opportunity. It's great to be here this morning and great to continue to get to know you and look forward to the future.
I appreciate it, Rob. Okay. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you.